guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about Necrons. Before we get into that though, I want to just apologize. Last week I only put out one video. I had planned to do two like I've been doing, but I started going back to work, and I was just too burned out to make it through an extra hour plus of recording and whatever, but I will try to get the Ringworld Chapter 4 video out this week. So look for that if you're still watching those videos. Anyways, let's get on with the Necron legions. Long ago, the Necrons ruled the galaxy as its immortal overlords, before the march of time and the wounds of war forced them into hibernation. For millions of years, their armies slumbered, endless ranks of deathless warriors held in stasis until the time when the Necrons would once again seek to dominate the stars. At long last, that time has come. In the gathering twilight of the 41st millennium, the Necrons are returning. Overlords and pharaons stride imperiously before silent ranks of death-masked warriors, their booming voices promising glorious battle in their long-forgotten tongue. Eldritch engines of war rise, propelled by arcing engines, while mechanical arachnids scuttle in their wake. World-ending weapons, the likes of which the galaxy has not seen for millions of years, stir to terrible life under the exacting attentions of cryptex. Rank upon rank of skull-faced soldiers spill out from their tombs like a tide of cold, hard steel. In their billions, the Necrons are rising up to reclaim what was once theirs, and the whole galaxy trembles at their coming. The Necrons are a terror out of time, an ancient empire that existed millions of years before the Emperor forged the Imperium from mankind's warring worlds. Once, they were mortal creatures of flesh known as the Necrontyr, a short-lived and quarrelsome race whose constant wars of conquest brought them to the very brink of annihilation. When faced with extinction, rather than fade meekly into oblivion, the Necrontyr chose a devil's bargain, surrendering their souls to the godlike Catan, so they might live on forever. Thus were born the Necrons, a blight upon the galaxy that would spread out to conquer in the name of the Catan. During this long-dead age, the Necrons fought what would become known to some as the War in Heaven, scouring planets and entire systems of life. The metallic march of their legions echoed across countless battlefields. Continents were shattered, and even whole stars consumed under the advance of their seemingly invincible armies. The Necrons' enemies fell in their untold billions before the relentless onslaught. And yet, nothing endures forever. In time, even the greatest empires fracture and crumble. To stay the hand of entropy and escape the wrath of their gathering foes, the Necrons chose to enter an aeons-long slumber, reasoning that when they awoke, the galaxy would once more be ripe for conquest. That time is now. Imhotep, the Storm Lord. Imhotep stands at the head of the Sautek dynasty, greatest of the arisen Necron empires. A peerless warrior and pitiless leader, when Imhotep awoke to discover the Sautek divided by infighting, he ruthlessly took control and named himself Pharaon. Under his implacable command, his dynasty has reclaimed dozens of systems and united many disparate Necron worlds under its glorious banner. A skilled general and brilliant strategist, there are few warlords alive that can hope to match Imhotep's mastery of war. Tempered by the long years of conflict, the Pharaon was already a gifted commander before he entered hibernation. The millennia have done nothing to dull his talents, and enemies learn to their cost that to face the Stormlord is to face their doom. The price of power. Long before mankind crawled from the primordial ooze, the Necrontyr waged war upon the galaxy. Born of a dying world, with bodies cursed by pitifully short lifespans, they were a people bound by an obsession with death. Over millions of years, the Necrontyr spread slowly across the void, their armies crushing those who resisted their advance, while their kings sought immortality through grandiose tombs and glorious deeds. In this golden age of conflict, the living soldiers of the Necrontyr made war upon their enemies. But as their domain expanded, so too did the Necrontyr fracture in purpose and design. Thus began a series of brutal civil wars that would see the death of dynasties and the murder of kings. In their desperation to unite their people under a common cause, the Pharaons started a war with the Old Ones, a powerful and enigmatic race that had long kept the secrets of immortality from the short-lived Necrontyr. This would become known as the War in Heaven, and the galaxy would burn for an age with its fury. In their hubris, the Necrontyr thought they could defeat the Old Ones and their allies. But though their empire was vast and their wonders many, the Necrontyr soon faced extinction. To save his people from the wrath of their foes, Zarek, the silent king of the Necrontyr, made a deal with the Catan. Alien star gods of unimaginable power, the Catan offered the Necrontyr an alliance against the Old Ones, and the secret of immortality. Though he knew such a powerful gift would have its price, Zarek accepted. And so the Necrontyr became the Necrons, their flesh seared away in the furnaces of biotransference, and replaced by living metal and cold, soulless purpose. Filled with renewed wrath, and backed by the reality-sundering abilities of the Catan, the Necrons rekindled their war upon the Old Ones. Worlds ran red with blood, and cities crumbled to ash, and one by one the Old Ones' fortress worlds fell. Yet it was only in his hour of victory that Zarek finally understood the true horror of what he had done. His people had been destroyed, replaced by a hollow race under the thrall of the Catan. Desperate to atone, he betrayed his immortal allies and turned his soldiers upon them while they gorged on the ruin of their defeated foes. So were the star gods in turn brought low, and though they could not truly be killed, Zarek broke them into shards and imprisoned them within tesseract vaults, that their remaining power might serve the Necrons' cause as both an energy source and a weapon of dire potency. The Necron legions had been decimated by the fury and carnage of the war in heaven, while their treacherous war against the Catan had seen billions of soldiers and war machines obliterated by the star god's wrath. To preserve what remained of his empire, Zarek decreed that his people would enter into hibernation. So it was that, as their remaining enemies gathered, the Necrons sealed themselves away within colossal stasis crypts. Zarek swore that, when they awoke, the Necron Empire would rise once more. The Awakening. Like a whispered breath that grows into a raging storm, the Necrons are returning to the galaxy. Beneath the surface of countless worlds, their soulless armies stir within stasis crypts. Meanwhile, cold-hearted overlords raise their pitiless gaze to the stars, their minds turning once more to dreams of domination and war. For 60 million years the Necrons have slumbered, their tomb worlds filled with dormant armies and inactive war machines. Now they are awakening as if from half-remembered nightmares, and the galaxy shudders at their return. From vast crypt fortresses, burnished legions emerge into the dying light of the 41st millennium. A steel sea rippling beneath the crackling energy discharge of esoteric battle engines. Cohorts of swarming metal scarabs, talon-limbed horrors, and spectral assassins accompany them, their alien minds focused on a single purpose: to reclaim the stars. However, time has wounded the Necrons in ways their ancient enemies could not. What was once a galaxy-spanning network of dynasties under the watchful gaze of the Silent King is now a scattering of isolated domains. Entire tomb worlds have been lost, their star systems consumed by celestial catastrophe or plundered by younger races. Others have suffered technological failure, the cold hands of entropy destroying vital systems and dooming their inhabitants to an endless sleep. Even amongst those who have woken, the scars of time can be seen. This is no more evident than in the minds of the overlords, who are often touched by madness. Their personalities warped and distorted by millennia of stasis, they pursue their own damaged agendas to the woe of all they encounter. Yet, despite the billions lost, billions more remain. These vast alien armies stand ready for war, determined to return the Necrons to their rightful place among the stars. On countless worlds, legions of metallic warriors march forth from ancient vaults and into the cold light of dying suns. Races with the misfortune to have made their home upon these planets are annihilated in storms of Gauss fire and particle beams, until only their smoking remains and the charred ruins of their cities remain. This is the fate of all who oppose the Necrons. In the eyes of the Pharaons, the young races are merely the dust that is gathered between the cracks of their empire. And like dust, the Necrons will sweep them away. Another strobing pulse of plasma fire tore across the Necron lines, ripping molten fragments from ranks of living metal warriors. Out in the azure haze, puppet-like wraithbone constructs and agile Eldar guardians stalked toward the phalanx of Necron warriors clustered around the flickering dolmen gate. Then, from out of the rippling portal, a monolith tore into reality, its immense shadow falling across the advancing Eldar army. Filled with nothing but contempt for his enemies of old, Nemesor Orunak emerged from the monolith's eternity gate, green energy sparks dancing across his embellished war raiment. At his back came immortals and fresh legions of warriors from the Sautek dynasty. In lockstep ranks, the Necrons advanced into the teeth of the Eldar gun line, their metallic bodies weathering the sporadic streams of monomolecular disks in a storm of sparks. All around the Overlord, his warriors exchanged fire with the enemy, the whine of shuriken rounds a continuous, high-pitched wail among the crack of Gauss flares as the two sides closed. But the Eldar were far from daunted by these new arrivals, their forces surging forward as they attacked with renewed fury. Vipers and jet bikes screamed out of the haze, while a line of towering wraithbone walkers fired searing beams of plasma into the Necrons' metallic ranks, each blast an incandescent bolt sending ruined warriors crashing to the ground. With a flicker of thought, Orunak summoned the rest of his army, and in a tempest of crackling green lightning, they burst into reality through the pulsing dolmen gate. More slab-sided monoliths appeared from the curtain of light, their portals glowing with pale energies, while sickle-shaped attack craft screamed down from the firmament, their weapons spitting death. Orunok strode into the forward ranks of the Eldar, his war scythe hewing apart fragile mortal limbs in arcs of blood, while at his side his Lich Guard hacked down any Eldar bold enough to dare to land a blow upon their overlord. Even in the face of Orunok's implacable advance, the Eldar held their ground. At this close range, their weapons were proving deadly against the Necron warriors. The constant rain of shurikens severing limbs and penetrating metal skulls. Before long, a field of fallen, sparking Necron remains carpeted the battlefield between Orunok and his enemies. With a slow, dramatic gesture, the Overlord unveiled a blazing emerald orb. Spidery bolts of lightning sprang out from the object, washing the scorched ground with green energy. Where the bolts struck fallen Necrons, metallic limbs knitted back together, and battered warriors rose to their feet. Before the onslaught of newly risen foes, the Eldar Guardians vanished under a wave of grasping silver claws and hollow-eyed skulls, their death screams drowned out by the march of 1,000 metallic feet. The Necron Dynasties. For millennia, the Necron dynasties ruled the galaxy under the dominion of the Silent King. Names such as Sautek, Orosk, and Mefrit were synonymous with military prowess and political glory, hundreds of worlds prostrating themselves before the immense might of these dynasties' pharaons. Under the banners of their grand armies, the dynasties held sway over vast stretches of the galaxy, ruling their people with an iron fist, and crushing any who dared rise against them. Biotransference served only to extend this martial rule, until mental programming bound every member of a pharaon's domain to his will. Time and the Great Sleep, however, have taken their inevitable toll upon the Necron Empire. Much has been lost. Once great realms have crumbled. Dynasties such as Rytek, Horth, and Astrion are all but forgotten, their crown worlds reduced to stellar dust, and their armies little more than a fading memory of martial grandeur. However, these grave losses aside, hundreds of dynasties remain, and many more are still locked in stasis. Those dynasties that have awoken now wage war amongst the stars, with ambitions to usher in a new age of Necron domination. Principal among these is the Sautek dynasty, led by Imhotep the Stormlord. The Sautek legions arose ready for war, and under the strategic mastery of Emotech, they have remorselessly carved themselves a new empire. It is Emotech's will to unite his race and claim his rightful place among its rulers. The Sautech, however, are far from the only dynasty to wax in power. In the galactic north, the worlds of the Atun dynasty, once a mighty power among the Necrontyr, stir to life. Within their stasis crypts are terrible war engines and weapons, towering machines of mass destruction which the galaxy has not seen for millions of years. The Ogdebek dynasty, renowned for its cryptex and their mastery of the arcane sciences, are building an empire wrought from solar cities and worlds of pure energy, while the Mefrit dynasty seek to reclaim the world-ending engines that once slew the stars of their foes. Not all the returned dynasties have endured the millennia so intact. The worlds of the Karnavok dynasty were scattered across the eastern fringe and have suffered in the Imperium's ongoing wars against the Tyranids. The embittered survivors have formed new makeshift legions with which to terrorize the Imperium's colonies. Similarly, the Orosk dynasty was ravaged by the Flayer virus, and many of its ranks have succumbed to the affliction. Now, when the armies of the Orosk march to war, vast cohorts of flayed ones follow, draped in the skins of their enemies and steeped in the stench of death. Architects of their own outcast status, the Nektist dynasty are widely regarded as traitors by the other dynasties for acts of betrayal during the Wars of Succession. They have, however, found unlikely allies in the younger races, much to the disdain of their kin. And that is where we are going to bring this video to a close. It's a little shorter than most videos have been recently, so I apologize for that. I'm just very tired. This has been quite a week. Returning to work, and they're talking about opening classes up 2 weeks from now for people to come back. I have already said I'm not going back in person. Just for those of you in the US, you probably heard just how bad of a failure to launch most universities had when they tried to bring people back. I just don't see us being at a point where that won't happen again. So, anyways, enough about me. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it, sharing it, and subscribing if you aren't. That really helps the channel to grow, and I would love to see this channel succeed, and I know that a lot of you would love to see this channel succeed, and for that I am so grateful. Sorry, I feel like I'm pontificating. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.